Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of RiesKitchen. Today we're going to be making a Moroccan spiced lamb soup, perfect for a cold winter's night. Might be blue sky out there, but when the sun goes down, it gets bitterly cold in Melbourne at this time of year. There's not many ingredients, it does take a little while to cook on the stove, so let's get straight into it, shall we? So first up today, I have some lamb shanks that I've pre-roasted for an hour, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Zucchini, onion, sweet and carrot, some beef stock, some Moroccan spices, garlic and butter, a tin of crushed tomatoes, some Italian soup mix, some broad beans and some olive oil. So first up, I want to talk about the lamb shanks. So last night I dry roasted these, as in just in the pan, no oil, just those, 160 for an hour. Because what I wanted was that caramelisation, that lovely browning on the outside. I wanted them to cook through and bring up the sweetness of the lamb. So what I'm going to do now is just remove the lamb from the bone and dice it up. So now that I've taken the meat off the bone, I'm just going to cut away any fatty bits and discard those. And then what I want to do is cut the meat into nice bite-sized pieces that'll go into my soup. So about 1 centimetre cubed, I suppose, or thereabouts. Now it's time to prep the vegetables. But first up, I'm going to talk about the swede. Some of you may not be familiar with the swede. It is a relative of the turnip. The turnip is quite a white-fleshed vegetable. This one is quite yellow. It's a lot sweeter than a turnip as well, and it gives that wonderful counterbalance between some of the other spices in the soup. So all we need to do is chop off its top. You can see it's quite yellow. Peel it, and then I'm going to dice this into cubes about the same size as the biggest bean that we've got, which is a borlotti bean. So if I grab a borlotti bean, so we're going to go about, so that's a bit more than 1/2 centimetre kind of cubed. And so for the carrot, the same treatment as for the swede, again, about the same size as my borlotti bean. So now I'm just going to dice my onion as you would normally. Now, because zucchini is such a delicate vegetable, and we're certainly not going to boil it for as long as we do our root vegetables, I'm going to cut it slightly larger so that it doesn't turn to mush in my soup. And I'm just going to have it in moon shape. So now I want to talk about these last 2 ingredients, and then we'll actually get to start cooking. So the first one is our broad beans. Now, broad beans come in a pod, and then you get down to this. And they also, as these are starting to defrost, I can split that out and I get to the fava bean. And it's the fava bean I'm going to pop into my soup, not this harder outer casing. Because broad beans come out at the end of summer and this is a really winter soup, I'm using frozen ones. If you've got fresh ones, awesome, but we want down to the fava bean. And so while the soup's cooking, I'll pod all of these as they start to thaw out. But let's talk about the soup mix. Now, being celiac, many lentils, legumes that you buy in packets may contain warnings on them, and you have to be really careful. And that's mainly because they often have on the same plant and equipment barley. So you do need to be careful. I also like a lot more borlotti beans than the packets have, so I've added some more borlotti beans into this mix. I've rinsed it. You can see they're a bit stuck together because they're a bit wet. I've rinsed them and picked over them to make sure that there's no pearl barley in there, which is usually the contaminant that comes through. So you can use, if you're okay with using a made contain, you can just use the one straight out of the packet, or you can make your own mix up if you've got a trusted supplier that doesn't have maintain on them. So let's start cooking. So I have my pan on, so I'm just going to add in my butter and my olive oil and my Moroccan spices. Just let the butter melt just another little minute. Now Moroccan spices of course contain often a little bit of chili. They always have cinnamon, allspice and nutmeg, depending on the brand you buy. But the aroma that is lifting up off my pot right now is absolutely amazing. So into here, I'm just going to throw in my onion, my swede, and my carrot. I'm going to toss them through the spices so they get a bit of the coating of the spice and the butter. And I want to let that just cook a little until the onion has started to soften. But I will put my garlic in as well. So my onions have softened. The kitchen smells amazing. So I'm going to add in my bean mix. And I'm going to add my stock. Our can of tomatoes. And I want 400 mils of water as well. And give that a big stir. And now I want to bring that up to the boil and then turn it down to a simmer and let it cook for about, covered for about an hour and a half to 2 hours until all of our legumes, our beans are nice and soft. So this has come to the boil now, as you can see. Give it a quick stir. Now it is important that you stir this on and off over the next hour and a half and just let it simmer, not too hard to boil, but as always, the hard part's in the waiting. Gosh, my kitchen smells divine. I know I say that a lot, but it really does. All right, so let's take a closer look at this soup. I'll give it a big stir and see just how meaty that is without the meat in it yet. So I just want to check one of the beans and make sure that they're soft. So now the last step is we add in our lamb that's been diced up and our zucchini and our broad beans, or now they're fava beans. Now make sure you don't miss the step of taking off that second casing. So they should be a nice bright green, which just helps this soup pop. Now all of this is just needs to warm through, so only another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll be ready to serve. Look how chunky that is. It's tempting to serve this in too big a bowl. You can always come back for seconds, but there's a lot going on in this soup. That is ready to dish. So I picked a small bowl. It keeps it hot and you can always come back for seconds. I'll just give that a second to cool down. Can't wait. Now for all the details of today's recipe, don't forget to check out my blog at the link below. But as always, the best bit's in the tasting. So a little bit of parsley. I know, I say it all the time, but gee, this is good. In the West, we don't think of cinnamon and nutmeg in savoury. We always put them in sweet dishes and we miss out. They add a warmth. I mean, this is an unctuous, rich, fabulous soup. And then those spices in the back of your palate just add something special. This is a really delicious dish. I hope your family enjoyed as much as mine do. Till next time, everybody. Ciao.